there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 18, the week of September 14th, 2023. My name is Drew Koenig. With me as always, my co-host, Mads Possessi. Mads, how we doing?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, indeed. Hello.
I mean, it's been going. Like, that's this week. It's been going.
It has indeed been going. So, beyond all the going, how has it been going?
Honestly, I definitely have had a bad mental health week. Like, I was saying this to a friend yesterday because I was supposed to be working on a blog for a client for work. And the first 3-4 hours of my workday, I was instead watching David Tennant TikToks on the loop. So it's been a great mental health week.
Let's move on to news.
The strike rages ever on.
The strike rages ever on. We are on week 30, but let's step away from the strike for a second. Talk about some other things. So the first thing I want to talk about here is that Variety did a feature just a couple hours ago talking about the CW and its new leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Since Nexstar bought it last year from CBS and Warner Brothers, which I did not realize until this. This is one of these I learned today things of that CW literally means just CBS and Warner Brothers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. And the Variety article just went out and said that. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
You learn something new every day.
Just literally meant CBS and Warner Brothers. That's fun. But anyways.
I mean, I always kind of wondered why they picked the letters C and W.
Yeah. But,
the more you know.
The more you know. But ever since it was bought by Nexstar, it has dwindled rapidly into obscurity. And the quote from new President Dennis Miller and Entertainment President Brad Schwartz said, "We're broadcast. We're not a niche cable channel. We have to reach the largest audience possible." I'm not sure you all know what any of those words in that sentence meant.
I'm pretty sure you don't even know who your audience is.
You don't know you think your audience is old people. Ignore it, and you forget the fact that old people don't watch TV.
Unless it's Fox News.
And what made the CW even marginally profitable was that it had deals with Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
It had deals with Netflix in 2011 and 2016. When the deal in 2016 expired in 2019, that's when the CW ran into trouble.
Yeah. Most of the CW shows are now on Max.
Yeah, and after that deal expired, they brought their shows to HBO Max and other platforms. This idea that the CW is broadcast. To you, what does this word mean?
You guys don't give news information, because that's what I think of when you say broadcast.
Yeah. But it is important to note that Brad Schwartz was the president of Pop TV from
Pop TV
2000, I think, from 2003 to 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. Might have been up to 2020.
One of Pop TV's best moves was to get the airing rights for Schitt's Creek.
Yes, and he was the one largely responsible for that. Schwartz was largely responsible for bringing Schitt's Creek on.
Yep.
Which later was...
Because I didn't know about Pop TV until Schitt's Creek was on it.
So he could I mean, it is not unreasonable to think that Brad Schwartz might not be incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I'm not overly enthused at this point, because their idea seems to be scrapping all their superhero and teen shows, which is stated explicitly in the Variety article, and instead doing imports and non-scripted television. And they're talking about like trying to like build an audience, a energetic and engaging fan base, and the shows you have are not that.
Yeah.
And Variety's talking about like this fall season they might get fewer, or they might see a dwindling ratings, and it's like the CW already did not have great ratings.
The CW hasn't had good ratings since the early 2000s.
Yeah. So the idea that like, so you're gonna go from some people watching to less than some. I don't think you understand how few people that actually is.
And while I do think the entertainment industry is oversaturated with superhero related stuff, I do think it is a disservice to get rid of teen programming, because
Yes.
it's one of the only channels that has teen programming, and they seem to forget that teenagers watch television. And they like a certain type of dramatics in their television.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and also it's a very 2000s, 90s way of looking at television, without like understanding. Again, like the thing that made the CW work as a network was that their shit went to Netflix. You know,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as a season was done on the CW, it was on Netflix, and that was how the CW trained their fans to watch their stuff in bulk. You know,
Yeah, I'm not gonna
um,
lie. When Supernatural was in the later seasons, I didn't watch live anymore because I was like, ah, well, the season will end and it'll be on Netflix.
right. Um, so it feels like these guys are still operating under like a very traditional model of television,
Mm-hmm.
and also under the idea that like television is easy and profitable to make. Which, if one thing has been proven over the last few years, is that neither of those things are true. It is, in fact, not easy to make money at TV.
Not anymore, no.
No. If it ever was, it sure isn't now.
Yeah. It used to be that television actors didn't really see a lot of like pay until or if their show went into um what syndication,
Yeah.
because then they would get residuals. If their show never reached syndication, they got like one lump sum and it wasn't that much, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's why them Law and Order guest actors used to make a shit ton of residuals because Law and Order was always on television.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Whatever's going on with the CW continues to be extremely frustrating and disappointing. And again, like I said this a few weeks ago, but like it wasn't that long ago that like the CW was one of the most interesting and innovative networks on TV.
Yeah,
We're far from that. I don't know if it can ever go back to anything resembling what it was.
mm-hmm.
Especially considering that Next Star is, by all appearances, a right-wing leaning Christian organization.
Yeah.
at least based on rumor and conjecture. and their previous news organization that they owned. I believe it was called News Nation. That was bought out from WGN. Is very much went in that same direction. But anyway, I have no idea what's gonna happen with CW. It's a total crapshoot, honestly.
Yeah.
Anyways, another thing I want to mention here is that we talked a few months ago at the beginning of the year about sex lives of college girls. I wanted to mention that Renee Rapp, who plays Leighton on that show, was the VMAs for over the week, and she was nominated for Best New Artist. Lost to Ice Spice, but still very cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you've listened to any of Renee Rapp's music, but it's quite good.
I have not.
They are solid bops.
I'm very slow to pick up on music, and I rarely listen to music. I'm one of those weird people that only listens to music on occasion in their car. Right. I'm not the kind of person that like sits there and listens to music while working or things like that. Right. I'm like, nope. So like I say to my friends, I'm like, I don't really know music. And they're like, excuse me, what? How do you live in the universe and not really? I'm like, I know the stuff that makes the news. Like I know that music, like whatever. Right. I was like, I know Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran because they've been around since I was in college. Like I I was like, but, and like, I know Reva McEntire because I grew up listening to her, but I was just like, other than that, like any new artists that come out, you're very lucky if I end up listening to them. Like, it's shocking that I actually am a huge fan of Hozier because, like, how the hell did I get on that train? I don't know. Like, but I will have to check out their music.
Yeah. Renee's songs are very quite enjoyable. It's very in the vein of like sad girl sapphic music.
Okay.
Which is very fun.
I like that.
Very fun. It was fun seeing her reaction to losing to Ice Spice, who became #1 Ice Spice hype person.
Aw, that's cute.
Before and after was a #1 hype man.
I've only seen reaction videos or gifs or whatever from the VMAs that center on Taylor Swift because apparently she was having her own little party in her section.
Oh yes.
The whole night. So I was just like, this is hilarious. I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm enjoying myself watching her enjoy herself.
Yeah.
Also, her reaction to NSYNC was just like every millennial's reaction to NSYNC being on stage together.
Yeah.
I just loved it. She was like, "What are you guys up to? I feel like you're up to something." And I'm like, "Isn't that your game, Taylor Swift? Like, isn't that what you do?"
Yeah. So let's talk about some strike news real quick.
Indeed.
Back to the strike. So the Warner Brothers CFO, in talking about the $300 to $500 million they're expected to lose. I believe it was him that said this, that if a deal is not struck by October 1st, that they will not have a scripted season.
Yep.
Which to me sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah. Because you're the reason a deal isn't being made.
Yes.
Sir.
But the AMPTP and the WGA are expected to meet back for negotiation soon,
Mm-hmm.
over the next week or so. So that could be
Fingers
promising.
crossed.
Um,
Yep.
hopefully. The, the problem with the deal being made with WGA right now is that a deal still wouldn't be made with SAG.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd still only have part of the equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, like, even if the WGA made their deal, they still wouldn't be able to do anything. They
Right.
just
Because they have
wouldn't.
no one to perform.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they could write, but
They could, get a start on writing stuff, but yeah,
yeah, the only
no,
thing they would really accomplish is not being able to strike.
yeah.
Um, which would both be good and bad for them personally.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, yeah, but there just seemed to be increased pressure for the AMPTP to reach a satisfactory deal.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know.
In more fun strike news, some of the actors have decided to start um was it an auction? Yeah, it was an auction to auction off certain experiences for people, and all the money would go towards the fund to keep people in, with food and health insurance and all those things that they need during this time. And I was saying to my friend today that I wished that I lived in LA with my dog, and had thousands of dollars at my expense, because then I could walk with Adam Scott and my dog and just talk. But I will say, I looked at the auction page, and like all of the items up for auction have like thousands of dollars to them. So I'm like, that's good in my eyes. I'm like, it's good. People are donating their money. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how much each of those things end up going for. But there's
Yeah,
some really cool stuff, not that I have any kind of funding to be able to get any of that stuff, but um, like a Zoom call with um, Tim DeKay and Matt Bomer to talk about White Collar, which, I mean, that is one of my shows. So I'd be like, yes, yes, please. um, but yeah, it was a fun little thing to see come up yesterday.
yeah, yeah. There were some good auction items here, like Zoom with the cast of New Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
You could have someone, who was it, paint a mural in your house.
it was
Was it
Lena Dunham
Lena
will
Dunham?
will paint a mural in your
Not that I want
house,
Lena Dunham anywhere near my house.
which sounds like a threat, honestly. It feels like someone like it feels like
You
a
could get
blackmailer calling you and be like, if you don't give us $1 million, Lena Dunham will come to your house and paint a mural.
um I also believe it was Natasha Lyonne that was like, I'll finish a crossword puzzle with you. And I'm like, that sounds like it would be more fun than doing an average crossword puzzle.
Yes, yes.
Can I please get that? That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Mm. And Bob Odenkirk and David Cross will join you for dinner. Which sounds amazing.
Listen, I would not be able to eat in front of them. I'm sorry. Just nope. I'd be like, can I just watch you guys be friends? Thanks. But yeah, um, it's nice to see that this far in, we're still standing, in solidarity with each other, and that these bigger named actors are starting to be more forward and vocal about the support that they're giving.
Yes. Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
The last great auction item I saw here was the cast of Bob's Burgers will sing a song written just for you.
I mean,
It sounds great, like honestly.
that could go really good or really bad. Depends on. Yeah, no.
um, the other thing I saw today was that there have been released numbers of how many subscribers each streaming service has lost this quarter, and it is not a small number.
Nope. They haven't lost me yet just because of my side hustle. But my quite a few of my friends have like cut down on their streaming services.
Yeah. So Max far and away has lost the most people. With 26.9% that have canceled. Disney has lost 21%. Paramount has lost 17%. Hulu has lost 15.2%. Netflix has lost 10.2%. Peacock has lost 10%. Prime 9%. And Apple TV with by far the less at 5%.
To be fair, do people remember that they have subscriptions to Apple TV? Like, that's probably the problem. Because I honestly keep forgetting I have a subscription to that service until like something comes up that's on Apple TV, and I'm like, oh, I need to go get Apple TV, and then I go, and it's like you already have a login, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm not so sure that's like a kudos to Apple TV.
That might be part of it, but also that Apple TV has largely stayed out of it.
Yeah.
And the stuff they have, like Ted Lasso aside, has largely satisfied people.
Yep.
And they haven't really burned anyone yet, so people don't really have a reason to cancel Apple TV yet. But boy, that 26.9% for Max. What a scathing indictment.
Well, you know what's interesting is that based on the people that I see on my timeline on socials, Max is burning people because their most popular show is Our Flag Means Death, and they've only just now started to realize that it's a show again because they're releasing the new season. And we went a whole year with radio silence from them about this show.
Right.
And this show continued to be their top earner. They never advertised it, none of that. They didn't even advertise it when it was on air for season 1. Like, they never gave it its due. So a lot of people are pissed off about that. And then a lot of people are also pissed off that Max has continued a relationship with J.K. Rowling. And that's pissed off quite a few people. So I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, and especially because David Zaslav is the front man.
Yeah. And their merger with Discovery, like, fucked up the ability of the the workability of the app. So, like, people get mad about that because it glitches a lot. I personally have had that problem where, like, there are some shows I can't watch without the audio and video being off from each other, and then it just stops, and then it comes up with a message saying error, can't watch this right now, and I'm like, what is the point of this?
I mean, in fairness, Max's and HBO Max's app has always been terrible.
That's true.
From the very second it was created.
You're not wrong.
Was profoundly bad. But you are correct. It has gotten worse just in the look of it and the like browsing of it, it is markedly worse. Where before you'd see really great stuff, now you see a bunch of Discovery nonsense.
Yeah, I'm not paying for that. Like, that's not why I'm paying for this.
No. Now you see a bunch of like Discovery and HGTV and TLC shenanigans.
I mean, to be fair, my roommate pays for it because I told her after they announced the new Harry Potter series, I said, I'm no longer paying for this. I was like, I need it, but I'm no longer paying for it.
Right.
And she's like, oh, but I love it because she watches 90 Day Fiance on it. She's happy with the merger with Discovery because she can watch her crap television. So she pays for it, and I just benefit from the fact that she pays for it without feeling guilty about giving them money. But also, I do appreciate that they have all the extended versions of Lord of the Rings on Max, which I watch whenever I get in the mood. I'm like, I'm going to watch all the Lord of the Rings movies in one weekend.
Right.
And the extended versions are like 4 hours long each. So,
well, I did have the thought today of like, man, I should really cancel Max, and I was like, oh, crap, our flag means death. It's coming back soon.
Also, Adventure Time. No, I mean, Adventure Time's on other streaming services too, but
Fiona and Cake. I do have to watch Fiona and Cake.
Fiona and Cake. There you go. That's it. That's the reason. The other reason I won't let my roommate get rid of Max is because you can only find Cold Case on Max, and that is one of my favorite like turn on in the at night while I fall asleep because it's just I don't know, it's a comfort show. And so it's like it's a show that like before Max existed, I couldn't find it anywhere. But yeah, no, Max has pissed me off the most out of all the streaming services.
You couldn't find it unless you were at your house at 2:00 in the afternoon on TNT.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. You had to be there at a specific time on a specific channel. But yeah, I'm not surprised by Prime's numbers because they also have barely pissed off people. I mean, they recently pissed off people with certain cancellations, but for the most part, they stay pretty true to their audiences.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people weren't too happy when they canceled like The Wilds and A League of Their Own, but by and large.
The other thing that Prime Video has going for them, though, is that it's roped in with Amazon Prime, and people use Amazon for purchasing things. And they're like, if I don't have Amazon Prime, I don't get the break on shipping. So they get Prime Video as part of that. And so, like, your subscriptions aren't going to go down.
Right. And it is the means by which a lot of people use other streaming services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they make it very easy.
Like, that's how I have Paramount Plus, like through Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm. That's how I have MGM Plus, AMC Plus, and PBS documentaries because I'm a weirdo that loves documentaries. So it's the only way I can get my Ken Burns, okay? Don't judge. Actually, you can judge me all you want. Full judging.
Peacock, however, is what you were saying about Apple TV. If people going, do we have Peacock?
I feel that way all the time, which I know I have Peacock, but every time I go to Peacock, I'm like, wait, do I have Peacock? Like, do I pay for? Because you can get a level of Peacock without paying, but then like some of their older shows that they have on their service, like the old sitcoms, you have to pay for the service to like be able to view them. So I'm like, wait, do I pay for this, or is this one of those ones that I just watch the free content? We're at that point with streaming services. There's so many.
Yeah. I typically don't subscribe to Peacock because I get some screeners from Peacock.
Yeah. Yeah, Peacock is the best channel, like the best. Well, NBC is the best entity to give away screeners.
Yes.
Like, I get screeners for everything that is affiliated with NBC, whether I want it or not.
Oh yeah.
And I'm fine with that because, like, I don't subscribe to Sci-Fi, but I get Sci-Fi screeners because it's an NBC affiliate. So it's like, yes.
Oh yeah. 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 When I had NBC screeners, I had like screeners for like The Magicians and The Expanse, and I was like, this is fucking awesome.
I got an email the other day that the first 4 episodes of season 2 of Surreal Estate was in my inbox of screeners, and I'm like, hey. I was like, this doesn't come out for a month. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, there is like a, what is it, the agreement that critics can't talk about this before a certain date. I forget what that's
embargo.
Embargo. They're like, there's an embargo on this until premiere day, and I'm like, then why are you giving it to us a month ahead? Like, what? Okay, fine, I'll take it, but like, what?
Oh no, okay. This is a tangent.
I'm like,
This is
NBC, are you okay?
this is a tangent, but I had screeners for like the season premiere of Winona Earp, and one of the funniest like notes I've ever seen, like a screener note, is please don't mention those. It was 2 things. Of like, don't talk about this. Was don't talk about the time skip, and don't talk about. It was essentially don't mention that Waverly and Nicole fuck.
Well, when I got my Heartstopper screeners, there were some things kind of like that. Not like fucking, but like there were certain very specific, like, do not talk about this. Like one of them was do not talk about Isaac's identity journey. And I'm like, what? Why? Like, you can vaguely talk about that. Like, I was like, okay, don't mention it at all. Okay. Like, it was just really funny. It's funny what some studios will go through to try and like surprise fandoms, and I'm like, honey, this is we already knew about this ages ago because the author of the books told us this was going to happen. Like, you're 6 months behind. Like, we know this storyline is happening. Because someone had asked Alice if they were going to write an asexual storyline, and they were like, Isaac. And I was just like, see, you already knew about it. It's like, then you need to get a handle on your writer. There's also this secret that Max is still trying to keep about our flag with regards to Lucius. And I'm like, oh, guys, you act like he's not in it. We already know he is. Because a fan ran into them when they were still filming in New Zealand and kept it quiet for like 6 months. And then Nathan kept his location on when he posted a story to Instagram, which told us he was in New Zealand. And so then it came out that he was filming, and so the person that had ran into him was like, okay, well, cat's out of the bag because he took it out of the bag himself. Lucius is in season 2. And I'm like, this is the worst kept secret. But I still find it funny that Max is still trying to be like, oh no, there's no Lucius. Like, see, look at the trailer. There's no Lucius.
I still haven't watched Our Flag Means Death, so this means nothing to me.
Nothing to you. It's
I
fine.
have no context for this at all.
It's all good. You will if you watch it. You need to watch it. It's super queer. And it's not young queers. Like, that's the other thing that I love about it, is that it's middle-aged people finding queer love and queer identities in themselves. And I'm like, thank God. I'm like, nothing. I love Heartstopper, don't get me wrong, but I'm tired of like it just being teen stories.
Right.
Because we ain't all teens when we find out we're queer.
Well, that's like the morning show.
Mm-hmm.
With like who is it? Juliana Margulies and Reese Witherspoon.
Well, that's a pairing.
I haven't watched the morning show, but that is a good looking
I haven't
ship.
I haven't watched it, but like just thinking of those two actresses, I'm like, that's a pairing.
Yes. I've seen some clips. It is a good looking ship. An aggressively good looking ship. That's what I'll say.
Oh, anyways.
Let's move on into the goats. So the goat is a weekly segment that we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best character or TV episode of all time and pit them up against each other on a poll on Twitter and TikTok. I briefly want to go over our past winners of the GOAT. So, here they are. All of our GOATs. We have Lost Season 4, Episode 5, The Constant. Abed from Community. Doctor Who Season 5, Episode 10, Vincent and the Doctor. Kieran Nerys from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Alana from Broad City. Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 17, guest starring John Noble. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 3, Episode 6, Josh is Irrelevant. 7 of 9 from Star Trek Voyager and Picard. Daria from Daria. John Locke from Lost. Batman the Animated Series, Season 1, Episode 4, Heart of Ice. Doctor Who, and this was the first redemption round that I did, where I brought back Doctor Who Season 3, Episode 10, Blink. After it was beat out by Alana from Broad City. And then we have Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight. Bar Rescue, Season 2, Episode 1, Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Dumb. Styles Zelensky from Teen Wolf. The Simpsons, Season 4, Episode 17, Last Exit to Springfield. Jane Villanueva from Jane Virgin. Kim Wexler from Better Call Saul. Grey's Anatomy, Season 5, Episode 24, Now or Never. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 2, The Visitor. Raven Reyes from The 100. Patrick Brewer from Schitt's Creek. Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 9, Measure of a Man. Crowley from Good Omens. Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec. Dorothy from The Golden Girls. Teen Wolf, Season 3, Episode 9, Motel California. Donna Noble from Doctor Who. And most recently, last week, we have our latest winner, Rachel Zane from Suits, which beat out my pick of Sherlock, Series 2, Episode 3, The Reichenbach Fall. So, those are all our goats. This week, we are doing another redemption round, which is where myself and Mads take a previous pick of ours that did not win and try again. So, since you won last week, let me hear your redemption pick.
So I'm just gonna stick with the only one that has not won for me, which was Reva from the series Obi-Wan Kenobi. I feel very strongly about this character. She is a survivor. Like, she survived Order 66 and looked Anakin in the eyes as he was killing younglings and decided to somehow escape. Like, she somehow managed to escape that. And then she decided when she got older, I'm going to join up with Vader and be one of his minions, so to speak. And like, there's just a survivability in that. Like, there's a strength in that I just love so much. And she's such a good fighter. She has an elegance to the way that she fights. She has a lot of passion behind it, which leads her astray sometimes because, as we all know, anger and emotion get in the way of logic, which is not always great in a battle or a fight, but she does use it to her advantage with how she wields her lightsaber. And I just really love that she got Vader to trust her to the point that he gave her that mission of bringing in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And in turn, she turns around and is like, psych, I've been trying to kill you all along. Like, there's just, so great. Such a wonderful character. I cannot believe she didn't win. But to be fair, she was up against a very well loved character as well. So, my redemption character is Reva from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Nice. So, for my redemption round, I'm going way, way, way back to one of my earliest losses. And I am going with What We Do in the Shadows, Season 2, Episode 6, entitled On the Run. And this is an episode where Laszlo gets challenged by another vampire played by Mark Hamill into a duel, who then promptly runs away to Pennsylvania because he thinks it sounds like Transylvania and therefore must be cool, and takes on the name of Jackie Daytona, regular human bartender, which is an all-time great fake name.
And it continues to be a name throughout the series.
I love it. And who kills unwitting bar patrons and becomes very invested in a local women's volleyball team. And it is just so delightful. I love it so much. And anyone who mentions Jackie Daytona, you know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And also Mark Hamill is great as a very stereotypical, like, Transylvania vampire.
Yes.
Excellent. Like, no notes. So that's my pick. What We Do in the Shadows, Season 2, Episode 6, On the Run. So you can vote for both of these on Twitter and TikTok, and you'll have 2 days to vote once it goes up. And be sure to check out our Twitter and TikTok pages throughout the week for clips of the podcast that I am uploading, as well as Instagram and YouTube. And also be sure to check out our merch page at bit.ly/not another TV podcast -Shopify. Now, without anything further.
And if you want to make the voting super crazy, vote one way on Twitter and vote another way on TikTok. Listen, I'm a chaos queen. Basically, both of these options this week deserve votes.
Yes.
Looking backwards, all my pictures look like send-ups of stolen scriptures. We were children dressed up like men, painting places we'd never been.
So, our first show this week is our continuing rewatch of Adventure Time. This week we have Season 3, Episode 17, Thank You, and Episodes 19 and 20, Holly Jolly Secrets, Parts 1 and 2. So, these 3 episodes feel to me like Adventure Time leveling in a very substantial way. First with Thank You, being one of, if not the first episode that does not deal centrally with Finn or Jake.
No, it doesn't. I was watching and I'm like, are we gonna see Finn and Jake? Like, there's so much of it that's centered on I forget what he's called, but
Snow Golem.
The what?
The Snow Golem.
Snow Golem. Okay, I was gonna say the Snowman, but like that's a different connotation. But yeah, the Snow Golem and the Fire Wolves or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is fun and interesting though. Like, even without Finn and Jake, like, you're very invested in what is going on with this Snow Golem. Like, oh, he's going out and hunting pears in snow weather. Like, what?
Yeah. And this episode demonstrates the show investing in a kind of emotional complexity that it hadn't just demonstrated as strongly up to this point. Making the case that this is more than just a silly kid animated show of a boy and his dog friend, because this episode, the idea of it is adopting a pet that you're allergic to.
Yeah.
And the way that you deeply love that pet, even though it is detrimental to your health.
Yeah, the poor golem was like melting, but he was loving the dog. Well, the wolf, but whatever. It looked like a dog at that point. Dog connotation.
Yeah, and just like the tenderness and the sincerity there of just loving this thing that is not good for you.
And it was a learning moment for Jake, for Finn and Finn and Jake, because they were like looking at this situation happening outside the window, and they were like, "Why would he be doing that?" Like, and they realized, oh, because he loves it. Like, sometimes you give up certain things because you love something else.
And also just like the confidence to not show Finn and Jake.
Yeah.
As strongly. To focus on something else, which becomes more of the pattern. But this is very... You kind of just have to marvel at the experimental nature of the episode.
Yeah. It was very cute. And I liked that at the very end, like, Finn, gives the Ice King a kiss on the cheek and says thank you. Like, that's not something that I think Finn would ever do if he hadn't seen the situation with the Snow Golem and the Fire Wolves. Like, I think that made him realize that, like, he kind of likes the Ice King. He's not that bad of a guy. Like, he's just one of those annoying friends that you actually enjoy sometimes.
Yeah, and like it's one of the more interesting aspects of the show, the way that Finn has this level of empathy for the Ice King, which you see more in Holly Dolly Secrets, which we can pivot to. Of
perfect pivot.
Yeah, of Finn being able to see the deeper humanity of Ice King. And this two-parter reveals the Ice King's secret history, as Finn and Jake try to watch his videotape diaries.
And to be fair, the whole time, like, you get that sense that Jake's in it because he wants to find something hilarious about the Ice King. Like, he wants to find something he can make fun of the Ice King for. But Finn is there to try and actually understand this guy. Like, he's like, I really need to know what his secret is. I need to know whatever it is I need to know about this guy. And that's so mature of him for his age.
Mhm.
It's still a very silly episode.
It's
but-
very silly. It's a Christmas pastiche. Ending with like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer spoof.
I just loved when they were like at the end of the second part of this episode, because that's what I consider it. Like, it wasn't 2 episodes to me. It was like part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, it's definitely part one
I
and
feel
part two.
like at the, I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, I didn't separate them as 2 different episodes,
Right.
if that makes sense. Like,
No.
I saw it as one complete thing. But like at the end of the second half of it, I was just like laughing at, they were listing everybody around them that was now doing this tradition of wearing ridiculous lumpy sweaters and watching tapes and things. I'm like, that's cute, but it's like you also see how many people actually are around Finn. Like, Finn does have this whole community of characters that are there for him, whether he always appreciates it or not.
yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of fun in these 2 episodes though, of like like BMO being the one to like show that they're watching the tapes on and being like, you guys feel really far away from me right now.
That, and when they were trying to hide from Ice King, like that was like, and then BMO was like, alarm, Finn, it's time for your bath. Like, that's what I mean. Like, yes, this episode was very heartfelt, but there was also extreme humor
Yes.
involved as well.
Mm.
And you're just like, and the like learning the slow progression of the Ice King becoming who he, like how we see him now, was very interesting. And
Right.
I liked that the writers gave his character that much depth. Here was someone that had a family and had someone he loved, and he lost it all, and that kind of led to him being sad and cold and closed off from the world. And I'm like, that's such a cool way of like transitioning him, you know?
Yeah, going from Simon to the Ice King. And yeah, like Simon having this old love, Betty, who he referred to as his princess. And something that like bled into his brain as he became more and more insane from the crown.
Yeah.
And that reflected by him stealing princesses. Trying to marry them. Like,
he's trying to find his princess.
Yeah. And there's kind of a running thing of the Ice King, the show imagining him in the same kind of way that you would an older family member who becomes senile, and someone who, like, as as Simon says, like, if I become worse and I hurt people, I'm sorry, which is like the kind of like progression of senility that you see too, and like older people of like, if I do things that are like weird, I'm really sorry, I'm just not in complete control. Which is very much the thing of the Ice King, is like he gets worse to the point that like we see the Ice King in this episode where like his big hang up is, I used to be a nerd that wore glasses.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of see that senile-ish behavior when Finn hands him the suitcase of tapes, and he's like, I used to have a suitcase of tapes like this.
Right.
And it's just like, sir, these are your tapes. But it's a great analogy, and I think in a way it probably helped some people deal with family members that have gotten Alzheimer's or dementia.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy thing to have to go through.
Yes.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, and we still have like one more really great turn in like Ice King lore that I'm really excited for us to get to. But and does really cement this kind of idea of like older person who becomes senile and has Alzheimer's.
He's still my favorite character. I really do. He's just Listen, he's just a man who doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand why people don't just love him. And he used to wear glasses, and that is his biggest downfall.
It's his biggest downfall. Like, it's the thing he's most ashamed of.
It's his biggest loss.
Not everything else on those videos.
Wear glasses.
Yeah. The only other thing I want to mention is all of the stuff on the videotape with Gunther is great. So next week, our Adventure Time episodes are Season 3, Episode 26, Incendium. Season 4, Episode 1, Hot to the Touch. And Season 4, Episode 10, Goliad. So let's continue on to our next show. Similar to Adventure Time, we are starting a Dimension 20 rewatch. We're starting at the beginning here with Season 1, Episode 1, The Beginning Begins, from the Fantasy High campaign. So Dimension 20, for anyone who doesn't know, is a actual play Dungeons and Dragons game hosted by Brennan Lee Mulligan on Dropout TV, which spun off from College Humor.
Well, that makes sense. Sorry, I
Right.
just made the connection. Like, Dropout, College Humor.
Yes.
Sorry, brain did not catch that.
Yes. And this is a style popularized by others products like Critical Role, which most people will be very familiar with more of a comedic slant on it, more of a comedic improvisational slant. And Brennan is the game master here. As the players, you have Lou Wilson, who plays Fabian Airmail Seacaster, Allie Beardsley, who plays Kristen Applebee's, Brian Murphy, everyone calls Murph, plays Riz Gutgak, Emily Axford, who plays Figueroa Faith, Zakayama, who plays Gorgug Thistlespring, and Siobhan Thompson, who plays Adine Aberdant.
What names?
Excellent names.
Let me just start off with these character names are phenomenal.
They're just great fantasy names.
They're fantastic. Like, I don't think I could have even created any of these names. Like, that's just how amazed I am with this campaign.
Yes.
From the start. Like, and how developed these characters are. Like, I really enjoyed getting to see that it's clear these people have thought about their characters and have said, okay, how is their character going to react to their parents talking to them on the first day of school? And because that's the beginning of this campaign, is basically just conversations with their parents prior to going to school. And it's fantastic. It's glorious. And the details of their houses too, and like where they live, like that is fantastic as well. Like, it's just I'm very much in love with this production. Thank you for introducing me. Like, I'm obsessed.
Yeah, it begins completely fully developed. Like, you have no doubt that, like, Brennan, as like the creative force behind this, is like fully thought out, like, every single piece of this world. And like, as he states at the beginning of this campaign, like, this is fantasy by way of like a John Hughes 80s movie.
And it really is. Like, you really get that vibe from the start. You know, and there are like little moments, like, I'm just gonna say Addie. She's walking to school with her sister, and they are clear opposites. And she uses, you know, a lot of her strength and skills up because she's fighting her sister as she goes to school.
Right. No, uses every single one of her spell slots.
Exactly.
To fuck over her sister.
And I totally relate to that as someone who had an obnoxious older sister. I'm like, oh, I would have done that too. I would have totally been like, oh, I only have one left. Well, fuck it, I'm gonna do it.
No, the funniest thing is Shaban's like actual character work of just like the quickness of, and I punch her in the face.
And I punch her in the face.
Shaban is so funny. Just in like how like quick witted she is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, she thinks of things and she does it immediately.
She's so good. And like she doesn't forget that her character might be really good at doing things in stealth mode, but she also has a panic disorder.
Right.
So like she'll do it and then freak out about it and get caught.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah, and I do love that there is a panic attack condition that like they have to physically roll for.
Yeah, that was a really cool additive to it.
So far in this campaign, do you have a favorite character?
Absolutely. Riz. Riz is, I don't know why I like attached to Riz immediately. Maybe it was his inability to do the thing that he loves the most. Like he wants to investigate these disappearances and he has one clue on his board. Like he is so ineffectual at this.
Yes.
And then his mother is trying to help him, but then turns around and goes, "Absolutely not! I should not be helping
I
you
should
with
not be
this.
helping this. No.
And honestly, he reminded me a lot of Styles Stalinsky from Teen Wolf, so I was just like, oh, I get this. But like, unlike Styles, he's not good at it. So like, it's hilarious.
No. Yeah.
And there's just something so awkwardly relatable about Riz that I understood because I was that kind of person in high school. Like I wanted to be friends with everybody, or I just wanted to be accepted instead of thrown in the trash can. And more often than not I got thrown in the trash can. Like,
Right.
Hypothetically, like I didn't actually get thrown in trash cans, but I was bullied more than I was actually accepted. So yeah, I love Riz tremendously. And I like Adine.
Yes.
She's great too.
Yeah.
Who are your favorites?
My favorite is Fig. And like this is kind of how Emily Axford plays characters anyways, is the ultimate agent of chaos. She's so great. I love her tremendously. Like her argument with her mom at the beginning of her scene of Fig just acting in the most deranged way possible, like the teenager who decided that they were just going to be hellish for
Honestly, it reminded me of Marceline. Like,
yes.
I got Marceline vibes when she was talking to her mother, and then she tried to use the whole bait and switch thing with her mom and her not dad. And he was like, "Are you kidding me? I know it's you." Like, it's like hilarious.
Yeah. No, and just like I also love the way Brendan plays that scene between Fig and her mom, of like Fig doing something and then just automatically the mom being like, "God damn it!" But like strong runner up here is Fabian Seacaster, who just like the voice that Lou does for Fabian, that's like this kind of like haughty, rich, like quasi elf, like half elf, is just, oh, it's so good. Like this guy who is entirely sold on himself. Like, it's stellar. And like the conversation he has with his dad, who is just like, as Brendan says, the pirateiest pirate who's ever pirated. If you're gonna talk about the funniest moment of this episode is Fabian walking into school, seeing Gorgon and going, "And I punch him in the face."
meanwhile, this whole incident's going down, and Kristen is screaming, "Violence is not the answer." The only one who cannot get a detention slip on her
Oh
own
my
merit.
God.
She has to bribe the coach to give her one. Because she wants to be in an adventure team with the bad
Yes.
kids. She
The
puts
bad kids,
them.
yep.
Because she is the epitome of the rebellious religious teenager. Like, that is her essence. Or their essence, I should say. Sorry.
Their essence, yeah. And Kristen has some great moments in this episode of Kristen goes, "We all fall short in the glory of God." And Brendan's like, "That seems like a bit much. That seems like." Oh no, and speaking of Brendan, he has so many good voices throughout this.
Oh my God.
Like,
I was marveling at his voice work. Like,
he's
so good.
really good. Like, if Brendan can do one thing, it is come up with a really well-developed voice. Like, Brendan has talked about this in other places, that, like, when he is just by himself, he is practicing, like, villain voices.
His voice for the counselor in charge of detention was probably the best one. Okay, children, now what have we learned?
Yeah, just like going from Fabian's dad to Gorgug's parents, and then like to Golden Horde. It's just like, what a wide assortment of just voices. And Kristen's brother.
The little, do you need a tissue? Yeah, I think I'm good.
Good. No, Britton going like, I have a whole crayon stuck up my nose.
Yeah. A whole crayon. Oh, I would love to try an improv with this group. Like, I would just love to see if I could stand up.
It's so good. Like,
they all were like, couldn't keep a straight face during each other's presentations either. Like, they were all laughing at everything each other was saying. Like, it was great.
no, yeah. And I loved Emily giving Murph shit during like his presentation of like creep, which is funny because Emily and Murph are married in real life.
Yeah, but Riz is kind of a creep. Like, in some ways, he kind of is. Also, speaking of Brendan voices, his voice for Valley Girl, popular girl, what's her face's name? Like, his voice for that, I was just like, this is so opposite of everything else he's already done. Fantastic job.
Yes. Like, it's almost like he found the voice for Elwyn, Adine's sister, and then like took it that little bit further, which is really impressive.
He should do audiobooks.
Yes. But the thing I found really enjoyable in this episode was like, some of them are like D&D experience, but how like kind of raw they are at kind of playing D&D in this. Which is something we'll get into a little bit more next week. Allie Beardsley had not, I believe, played D&D before this. Brennan having to tell Shaban like what disadvantage means, like,
and some of them not being able to easily count their roles. Like, it's very obvious on some of the roles. It's just like, go a little quicker there. Like,
The second season of this, they do Dimension 20 live. So it's even longer on each take of like when they roll, of like physically seeing them counting like, okay, well, it's my sheet. Yes, okay. So it's even longer seeing them like physically count the sounds.
the more inexperienced ones are very obvious when it's like a lower roll. Like the ones that get a low roll and that are experienced immediately are like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
But the other ones are like, oh, that's not good. Like,
Oh yeah. But like to keep on this Dimension 20 train, I wanted to talk a little bit about the current season that Dimension 20 is doing, which is season 19, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So just to explain this real quick, the typical year for Dimension 20 is they'll have one like main season, the Intrepid Hero season, which is like these group of 6 players, and then they'll have, you know, like maybe three other campaigns throughout the year, like smaller, like 6-episode campaigns or something. Which is what they're doing right now, which is called Mentopolis, which is kind of Inside Out meets Metropolis, kind of noir-y, gritty, kind of pulp kind of thing, where you are inside this guy's mind, and the rest of the characters are playing like physical manifestations of his emotions. So you have like a PI character who's playing like his curiosity, and you have like this little kid character who's playing his conscience, and Siobhan Thompson is in this season. She's playing like this, you know,
I love Siobhan.
very like proper like heiress femme fatale. Which she's nice. Very fun at. She's like, you know, the ruling class of the city. And Hank Green is also in the season. And he plays a character called The Fix, who is kind of just like, he is your brain's hyperfixation. And he's just very like big, intimidating guy that just like fixes problems, fixes like any kind of distraction that you have. In like your mind, and he just gives like these very fun like science facts, but makes them sound incredibly intimidating. Like these little like facts about birds, and it's like, somehow you told me that and it sounds like a threat. But it's an incredibly fun season. I'm greatly enjoying it. And it helps that like Siobhan is there because like she has like that just innate chemistry with Brennan, because like they've done, I think they've done 6 Intrepid Heroes seasons by now. So like all of this, it's just like, you know, smooth as can be. Like they just know each other. But it's a really good campaign. Especially coming off of the last one, which was also incredibly fun, which was what they call it, Dungeons and Drag Queens, where they had a bunch of queens come on, and they had Brennan in like full drag.
Yes. Oh man, that sounds amazing.
yes.
And right up the alley of things that very much
Yes.
interest me.
Uh,
Nerds and drag
yes.
queens.
And I think, and that one had Bob the Drag Queen in that season too. So,
Okay.
very, very good. Very good. You'll see more of this as particularly as the season goes on. But there's one thing Brennan loves, it is to stick it to the man. He is a staunch anti-capitalist. Anti-capitalist, anti-systems kind of guy. That's what he loves.
Got it.
So let's move on to our next show, which is Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 3, In the Cradle of Vexilon. So this is another episode that's a lot of fun.
It was very heartwarming to see Boimler have to gain confidence as he goes along as the leader of a mission. I don't know. I like Boimler. I've only seen 3 episodes of him so far, but I love him.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a nice backdrop of a very classic kind of Star Trek plot of we have a planet that's ruled by a computer. It's just it is as classic Star Trek as you can get.
It really is. You even have that classic dynamic of, with New Worlds with Pike and Spock, and then later on with Kirk and Spock with Boimler and T'Lyn, because T'Lyn is very Spock-ish because she's also Vulcan. And so her annoyance with Boimler being all unsure of himself is so classic Star Trek that you're just like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Absolutely.
She's like, you were promoted. It wasn't a fluke. Why would they just promote you for no reason? She's like, logically that doesn't compute. I don't understand your anxiety disorder.
No, I did love her this episode of the outcropping appearing, and she goes, "It's either a mountain or a volcano." Oh, it's a volcano.
Oh, it's a volcano. She's growing on me, and like I said, I haven't seen any of the other seasons. I need to go back and watch the other seasons, but I think it's kind of fun dropping in on characters 4 seasons in and not knowing who they are, and learning who they are as you go, and learning to love them for who they are, and then going back and seeing where they come from. I think sometimes that works.
Yeah. And it's worth noting, T'Lyn is a new character.
Nice.
Well, a moderately new character. She appeared in a season 2 episode, and then they kind of briefly introduced her in the season finale last season.
Gotcha.
So this is her first proper time on the show.
Nice. I like her.
And then the B plot, which brought back was a DS9 reference, which just loved.
I'm gonna take your word as gospel on that, because I have not watched Deep Space.
Yeah, the game that traps you inside it as a from an episode of Deep Space Nine.
All I know is that one of my favorite scenes from the whole episode is they think they're done, and then he's like, "Oh, but this hidden button that was obviously here." And they're like, "Oh, right, the obvious hidden button." And I'm just like, "This is ridiculous." I was like, I am thoroughly enjoying myself because of how ridiculous this is.
Also, okay, I love the moment in the main plot of the show where they're looking at the statues, and Ransom goes, "Well, yeah, this sucks. Look at how like uneven and unformed it is." And it's like, no, these are good. We're talking about the other ones. And then he just like goes on like this minute tirade of like, it's just so like we weren't even trying.
I also like the moment between Boimler and Tillin during that whole sort of pep talk that she gives him. And he's like, "So you think they show promise?" And she goes, "Who knows?" Like she, it's kind of like her implying, "I didn't say that." Talking about his crew, like she's, I wouldn't call it that.
So yeah, another very fun episode from Lower Decks. Our next show, Ahsoka Season 1, Episode 5, entitled Shadow Warrior. So, I have my actual opinion, and then I have the opinion that I'm going to share, which is about 20% less Drew than the Drew I would that I feel that I should proceed with. I don't know.
You can go ahead and give your whole Drew. I won't judge you.
To quote a review on Serialized I saw about the episode, I'm overwhelmed and in equal parts severely underwhelmed, which is largely the way I feel about it. I keep oscillating between this sucked and it was totally fine.
It's interesting. So in my review of the episode, the first third of the episode was fantastic. It was very well done. It was really well formulated Star Wars storytelling. It was great. And then we got a little bit of goodness with the whole Jason Force feeling stuff, whatever. That was kind of interesting. But like everything around it was just kind of eh. And then we get to the next part where Ahsoka manages to find the loophole to them being able to find Sabine. And I'm like, that's just convenient writing. Like, and that convenient writing annoys the hell out of me. Like, that kind of writing annoys me. They're like, oh, she has this ability that we're going to utilize because we put ourselves in a corner by destroying that map. Like,
look, I hate the space whale on the simple grounds that I hate the ocean, and this is far too ocean for me. It's like ocean, but make it more terrifying.
I still can't figure out how the whales can hyper jump.
Like
what? The whales can hyper jump?
Okay,
I'm confused.
I'm going to say something controversial that most people will not be prepared to hear. I did not need Hayden Christensen in this episode. I appreciate what it means for him to come back as his character. I did not need him. I did not need the Clone Wars stuff. That felt like I was being pandered to in a not good way. And I just did not require it, especially when Hayden Christensen looks like ass in this episode. Whatever CG de-aging they did for him looks like
that's valid.
dog shit.
That's completely valid. All right, I will agree on that note of your take, but I do not agree about the rest of it. I can understand feeling like it's a little out of place, because in a way it kind of is. I feel like it's something that should have happened maybe sooner in the series, mostly because from my perspective, I really enjoyed it because it's a very good way of them showing us Ahsoka's journey to getting beyond her fears of what being Anakin's Padawan did for her moving forward based on who he became. Does that make sense? Like, she's been afraid to be an educator, to be someone to somebody else because she's afraid of who she can become. She's afraid to really give in to the Force anymore because of what Anakin did with the Force, and she's terrified because he's the one that taught her. And I felt like this was a really good way of them allowing her to put that behind her, and grow beyond it. I do think that maybe it should have happened earlier in the series so that we could see more of it as she started to agree to train Sabine, because it should have happened before she agreed to train Sabine. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like it should have been something that showed sooner in the series, but I still appreciated it. I don't care how crazy weird Hayden Christensen looks. I will still love seeing him no matter what because I adore him. I also have a major bias when it comes to Anakin Skywalker because he's one of my favorite characters. So I was, of course, one of those people that was just like, I absolutely loved every second of this because I got to see things in live action that I have loved for years. So I don't know. I was fine with the pandering.
I guess a lot of his stuff bothered me. Like, not bothered me in like, I hate this kind of way, just in a, it doesn't work. Like I said, the CGI for him looks fucking awful. The performance feels weird from him. It almost feels like he's meant to be, quantum locked as pre-Vader Anakin Skywalker, where I don't understand the Anakin that we're seeing here. You know?
I feel like, and maybe some people miss parts of this, but like, I feel like she needed to see Clone Wars Anakin in the beginning to be able to trust what she was seeing, because that was an Anakin that she loved and she trusted. But then they start having their conversation about her legacy and death and war and destruction, and you see his eyes turn to Sith eyes and his saber becomes red, and she fights him for a little while and decides, no, I'm not going to fight you, I'm just going to live. And then he goes back to being Clone Wars Anakin, which I'm like, I understand like the transitions. It made sense for her making that realization, her putting what Anakin became behind her so that she could move forward as her own person. And so then he became Clone Wars Anakin again because his more darker side no longer controlled her fears. That's how I saw it.
Yeah, and
like, and I get not everyone's gonna see it that way, but that's how I saw it.
Felt unnecessary. His inclusion in this, what it felt like to me was more the like behind the scenes Star Wars guy saying, "We got Hayden Christensen back for Obi-Wan. Wouldn't it be a shame to waste Hayden Christensen while we already have him here?" You know? And like that prompting him being in Ahsoka rather than like it fully happening organically, you know, where like you could. I feel like we could still get to the point that Ahsoka reaches here without it necessarily being Anakin, you know, in a different way, you know, like you could still get there in a different way. Like it just feels
I
like
disagree, but
his
okay.
inclusion here is for this
I mean,
because we have Hayden Christensen, not because like.
I also think it was also a sense of this the Star Wars fandom now views Hayden Christensen in a positive light, and they're like, we're going to utilize and capitalize that as much as we can. And I understand that to a point because they're like, oh, here is somebody that people want to see. Let's put him in there. And there is a clear through line because he was her Jedi mentor. Like there is a story here, but again, I think it should have happened earlier in the series. It, if it was going to happen more organically, so to speak, it should have happened earlier in the series. And instead of it being a world between worlds situation, which was cool, I guess, but like it was unnecessary. It could have been more of a she's
Right.
like meditating and he comes to her as a force ghost. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that could have been a way of doing it. But yeah.
Yeah.
They've done Force Ghosts in Obi-Wan Kenobi with
Well,
Qui-Gon Jinn,
and the
so
people
come on,
talking
like
about
they
this
could have
like
done the same with
this is the
Anakin and
culmination
Ahsoka.
of Dave Filoni's vision. I just don't see that.
Mm-mm. I don't necessarily see it as that far, but I did thoroughly enjoy myself just because I took it that part at least at yes a deeper level because I care about Ahsoka and I liked seeing that growth that culminated as a result of it. But I also loved it because I am always going to never say no to more Anakin. Like I'm always going to be like, okay, you want to throw Anakin in there? By all means, do it. I will watch, and I will be fine with it.
Right.
I
And
love
far be
my
it
little
from me
Sith
to yak
baby.
anyone's young. So.
Right. And that's the thing. Like you and I can disagree about it, but overall, like I feel like some of our complaints are similar.
Anyway.
So.
Let's move on to our next show.
But.
Which is Reservation Dogs,
anyway.
Season 3, Episode 8, Send It.
This was another one of their.
Yeah,
we're
this
just going to be chaotic. We're not going
like,
to be heartfelt. We're just going to be chaotic this episode.
this is the show basically going, what if we did a bank heist, but everyone involved is history's stupidest people?
And it's not a bank heist. It's bailing someone out of a situation that they don't need bailed out of.
Let's just go.
Because Maximus is like, why you gotta sneak me out? I could just leave if I want to. Which is something they brought up before even enacting their plan. One of them said, Bear, what if he doesn't need to be taken out? Like, what if he doesn't even want it? What if he's there because he wants to stay? Like,
they
and Bear's like, no, that can't
stupid.
be it. That can't be it. and she's drawing up the map for the wrong hospital.
Oh my god.
I love my chaotic idiot. I love him so much. Babe, you did so good. It's just the wrong hospital. And I never remember their names, but I always think the one guy is as the sewage guy from Parks and Rec. But him and the other kid were like, well, what about us? Like, they're like, you have to drive the bus to get us out of here. And he's like, they're just getaway drivers? And he turns to the kid and he's like, can you believe this? And he thinks for a second, he goes, yeah, actually I can. Like, he knows that he's useless at anything.
Yes.
I can't. It was such a fun episode. That's why I love this show so much. Like, you never know when you're gonna laugh your ass off or get punched in the gut.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the the more attention that Willie Jack gets in this episode, and especially like her talking to Alora, which I feel like those are two characters that don't like get a lot of like one-on-one time together.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Mhm.
like out of the bunch, because you usually see like Willie Jack with Cheese and Alora with Bear, or Alora with Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but you don't have to see like
Yeah.
Willie Jack and Alora like together, even though like they do have like a weird like trauma bond, by way of Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found it really interesting that they have the meaningful conversation that they have, and then they hug, and like everyone's like, "Oh my god, they hugged!"
Right.
Like, it's kind of like the "ew, they kissed" of children. Like, and that's when you realize that this
Like I
event
said, some
is
of the
happening
dumbest people who have
with
ever
some
lived.
of the most immature people on the planet. But it was great to see them interact, like you said. Like, it doesn't happen enough, and it was important, I think, that Alora say what she said to Willie Jack. Like, I think she needed to tell someone like Willie Jack for it to be more real.
And I did like the pairing, like just like visually how they look, because Alora is kind of like growing into like looking like more of an older woman, and like the way she's styled, with like her hair, and earrings, and like her wardrobe. And Willie Jack is just kind of staying as she is.
Yep. Yeah, Willie Jack doesn't change. Yes. Willie Jack stays the same, and that's very indicative of their character journeys.
Yep. But I did really like the framing of this episode of them all being interrogated by Big.
Yeah.
Oh,
so great.
You talk about a dumb man.
I just love Big.
Yes.
And talk about range of acting.
Also, I gotta say,
for him to go
I don't think Big can charge them with a misdemeanor, because what did they actually do? Nothing. I mean,
nothing.
Yeah, it was Kenny Boy's bus.
No, they didn't even steal the bus, because that was technically what's his face's bus, right?
Like, they can't. He can't prove that they cut the phone line at the hospital.
They can't even charge them for that.
All they did was sneak into the hospital, kind of, and they just snuck back out. Like, no one seemed to have a problem that they just walked on back out of there.
And I mean, they technically. And honestly, like, yes, technically they impersonated people they weren't, but like, did the nurse really believe them? Absolutely not. Well, she did not believe a word they were saying. So it's not even a good
and that's not even
so,
like where
do you really want to
problem
charge
is.
Them for that?
It's that the bus blew up, which is not their fault. The bus just blew up.
No,
like that's you can't charge someone for a bus blowing up.
I mean, It's an old ass bus that they don't take good care of, so it was bound to happen.
I don't believe this is misdemeanor worthy. He needs to do something.
It's been a short day. It's been a very slow day. He needs something to do. He's bored. He's like, you nefarious children are up to something.
Mhm. Yes.
I'm gonna be very sad when this show is done. Like, I'm gonna miss it.
So let's move on to our last show of the week, which is Harley Quinn, Season 4, Episode 10, Killer's Block, which is the season finale, which was fine. Like,
Yes.
I've been pretty lukewarm on this season as a whole.
Yeah, it was okay.
Like, I don't feel like this is some of their best work.
It felt like they were trying to do so much and they couldn't quite figure out the right execution for each thing they were trying to do.
So to start, the Joker. I saw a tweet today. That was saying the thing that Batman the Animated Series got right about the Joker is that he is the most fun when he is deeply petty. His best stuff is not I'm gonna blow up Gotham, but it is someone.
You gave me the wrong
or like
chicken. You gave me the wrong
someone
chicken
cut
in
me
my
off
dinner. I'm going to raise hell because of it.
They didn't like my stand-up routine, or
right.
Stuff like that. Someone wouldn't let me copyright this whatever. Wouldn't let me copyright my fish. That kind of stuff. Yeah. And this episode, like, is also kind of that, of like the Joker is just deeply petty. Like, he just got called out for on Psycho's podcast for not killing not killing Nightwing, and just shot Barbara. It was just stupid.
Right. He's like, you should have just let me lie about Darkwing. Like, he was the whole reason he's extremely mad at her is because she wouldn't let him keep up the ruse that he killed Darkwing.
But the rest of this episode's just kind of weird. Like, Lex.
The Superman part of it, and Lex taking his power and doing whatever he did. Like,
and
it was messy.
Ivy
but not
deciding to
way.
just like start blowing up buildings, and I don't know. It's weird. It's just doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, she is a petty person, but not petty.
And I'm like, Ivy's not a petty person.
This is not Ivy's like modus operandi. You know, like this is not how she gets down. It's not even how Harley gets down.
Yeah. No. Mm-mm. Like the whole Harley's decided, you know what? I'm not going to be good or bad. And I'm like, what? I was like,
I mean,
okay.
to an extent, that is the correct like interpretation of Harley in this show, of like morally gray. But morally gray is not what they're talking about here.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, it's her being
She's
very
trying to be
passive about
Switzerland
everything.
instead of. Yeah.
Sometimes bad and sometimes good. Yeah. Or bad for the right reason. Like, yeah, like there's a difference.
And then the end, trying to like work in Birds of Prey just feels kind of forced. Okay, when we haven't seen Catwoman
I
all
was like,
fucking
wait,
season.
we're doing Birds of Prey. Okay, whatever. And the whole right, and the whole bit at the end with Damien and his mother resurrecting Darkwing in, a very evil way. Like, I'm just like, what?
We shouldn't
Like,
have
you
killed
guys
him.
are regretting the fact that you killed him. Like,
Nightwing
that's
should
what the
not be
writers are
dead.
doing. They're like, oh, we shouldn't have killed him.
I was just gonna let you keep saying Darkwing.
Yeah.
Because it's
I said
very
Darkwing, I
funny.
meant Nightwing. I'm tired. I don't know why I was saying Darkwing. I think it's because my brain is tired and it's falling asleep, and dark night, dark, same difference. We all
And to
know
me,
what
it's
I'm
very
talking
similar to
about.
Darkwing Duck from DuckTales. So.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's all just a bit of a mess, though.
Anyway, I'm not disappointed that the season's over. Like, I thought maybe I'd be a little more disappointed, but as I look at the season as a whole, it's like, it had moments that was good, but like overall,
yeah, this is probably
it was
its
just
weakest
like,
season yet.
Whatever, it was okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The thing is, all the other seasons feel like a really funny send up of DC, with like a lot of really well thought out like spoofs on like classic DC characters. So like last season when you saw like Swamp Thing and John Constantine, it's like, yeah, this feels right. Yeah, this is both funny and like appropriate. And this just felt like trying to find a take. You know? Like especially like the more that Lex Luthor was introduced in the season, it's like feels like you're trying to have a stance on Lex Luthor. You know? Like you're trying to find something interesting to do with Lex. And like that was the same thing with like the Joker season. It's like you're trying to find anything to do with the Joker. Yeah. And especially since it feels weird that they spent like most of the season forgetting that like Batman exists.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I'd forgotten the whole Alfred and Batman storyline, and then he shows up at the prison where Batman was supposed to be, and Batman's getting released, and it's like,
you could have done this at any point.
This should have happened like
didn't.
This I was like, oh my gosh. This right, exactly. It's like they forgot as much as we did that the Alfred Batman storyline existed.
So yeah, it's fine. So that's it for this week. Next week I know we said we were going to talk about Lost Flowers Out of Heart this week, which we did not. But we're going to talk about that next week. Also, we're, as more of our shows continue to dwindle and disappear from us, we're going to be talking about Over the Garden Wall as we head into the autumn season, which is going to be a lot of fun. And I'm greatly looking forward to it. So until then, Mads, where can we find you online?
Sorry. You can find me at DorothyNYC89 on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram,
Yes.
all the socials you could think of.
And you can find me
You will find me there.
Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, and on Serialized. They're all different variations of my name, but it should be hard to find. And you can follow the podcast at Not Another TV Pod on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. And you can email us at notanothertvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions, listener submissions, goat recommendations, future show recommendations that you have. And you can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple and YouTube, along with any other podcatching devices that you have. And be sure to leave a review and subscribe, and be sure to share the podcast on all of your socials. Any little bit helps. Until next week, please never forget, you should not go in the ocean. It's none of your business. Stay away from that. And if you find a space whale, stay away from it.
Exactly.